All right, Chris. How long have you been working at Columbia?
Been at Columbia 11 years this month.
11 years this month. And how did you get started here?
Well, I spent a lot of my career on the supplier side and worked for different organizations, Guinness, Diageo, Heineken, and ended up getting the opportunity to come and be the president of our Washington business, like I said, about 11 years ago.
Okay.
Columbia was always a customer of ours when I was on the supplier side. I loved the organization, had a relationship with the leadership team at the time, and it was a great opportunity, one I couldn't pass up.
Yeah, yeah. And what other roles, have you worked any other roles in this business?
I have. Within Columbia, I've worked as president of our Washington business for the first 5 years I was here.
Okay.
And then had a chance to take over as president for the whole business, and then 4 years ago, take over as CEO.
4 years ago. Okay, perfect. And so what led you to being a CEO? Was that something that you always thought you wanted to do, or did it kind of like fall in your lap? Was it part of your ambition?
No, I mean, I never really set out to thinking I'd be a CEO. I mean, titles never really matter to me. I still get uncomfortable today. When people ask me what I do, I always say I sell beer. That's always my response. So, no, I wanted to be in an industry that was fun, one that relationships mattered. I wanted to be in a business that I was passionate about the brands. So, no, I started off in sales and marketing roles, and one thing I always knew is I always had to have a great attitude and work really hard, and I always knew the chips would fall where they may. But in my wildest dreams, I never thought I'd be CEO of a company this size, working with 2,800 fabulous employees.
Can you, in your own words, just describe Columbia Distributing for me? And can you do it in a complete sentence? Just say Columbia Distributing is...
Yeah. Columbia Distributing is a dynamic, progressive organization filled with incredibly talented and passionate people who want to win every single day.
Great. And what does Columbia do?
Well, we sell beverages. That's what we do, right? So we sell, we warehouse, we distribute beverages across 3 states, in Oregon, Washington, and now in a partnership in Idaho as well.
Great. And what's your favorite part of your job?
By far, just interacting with people. This is a relationship business. I am very social. I love spending time with our people, our teammates. They work so incredibly hard. They're so incredibly passionate. And for me, that fuels my energy. I've never been really good at sitting behind a desk or in a boardroom. I like to be out kind of where the action is. And so for me, the people in this organization is what makes me excited every day to come to work.
Okay. And what would you say is the hardest part about your job?
There's a lot of hard parts of this job, and that was the interesting thing about kind of getting to where I am today is you don't realize it when you're not in this seat, a lot of the challenges that you deal with. But, probably one of the biggest challenges is just setting a really ambitious and aggressive strategy. There's a lot of things that I believe we can do at this organization with the talent that we have, the incredible suppliers we have, customers and brands. And so I set a really kind of aggressive tone in the organization, specifically as it relates to strategy. But we're a really big business, right? We have over 2,800 employees, 3 states. We have 13 branches around those 3 states. So sometimes it's easy to get disconnected from what we're trying to do at the center. So I think making sure that when we set ambitious goals and timelines against a strategy, we got to make sure the organization has enough time to comprehend it, manage through the change of what we're going through, and basically be able to keep up with kind of some of the bigger decisions we're making. And it's really important for the senior leaders of this company to understand that we got to bring the whole organization along with us or we won't be successful.
Do you have a favorite beverage?
I do.
What do you drink? It's Friday night. What are you going to drink on Friday night?
So kind of depends on the time of year. So for me, in the summer, it's always Pacifico. My favorite beer by far, hands down. In the winter, I go back to a little bit old school from early in my career. It's always a 20-ounce pint of Guinness, with the head of the beer just proud of the rim, as we used to say at Guinness.
That's when you're a professional. Do you have any professional goals?
Yeah, I mean, I do, right? And for me, my professional goals now, kind of where I'm at, is all about leaving an incredible legacy in this organization and within the industry. So, I want to be able to be part of promoting and developing the next group of leaders who are going to run this company. So for me, I'm not so much looking forward as what are my next professional ambitions. For me, it's about when my time's over at Columbia down the road, hopefully a fair amount of time down the road, I can look back and be so proud of where the organization is, know that I had a hand in helping to develop the next set of leaders, and who, by the way, will do things different than I did, better than I did, and they'll take the company to a whole different level that I probably couldn't have done on my own. So for me, that's what really excites me, is just leaving something better than when you found it.
That's great. Do you have like a motto that you live by or you think about all the time, or something that you'd like to present as a motto? Yourself?
Not really. I mean, the thing for me, I always, the kind of, I guess my motto, or maybe a little bit of my credo through my career, has always been, if you have a great attitude and you bring great energy and you work hard, there's nothing you can't do, right? And I think it's easy sometimes to get caught up into certain situations we're in. We don't always have great leaders that we work for, managers we work for. I've learned a lot in my career working for really good people, some people that probably weren't so great to work for. But at the end of the day, I think if you bring positivity and a great attitude, it's absolutely contagious, and it affects everybody around you, right? So if you bring that every day, you're willing to roll up your sleeves and work really hard, this is an industry, and I think this is a company that really rewards that. So not necessarily a mantra, more of just, I think those are two really critical factors. And, I personally believe the amount of education, what your major was, all of that, while it's important to develop you early on, what really matters is attitude, personality, the way that you collaborate. And, you want people to want you as part of their team. And when that happens, like I said, there's nothing you can't do. I was a kid who grew up in a pretty rough area in Connecticut. I wasn't supposed to be sitting at this desk, and it ended up fortunately happening. And a lot of that was because I also worked for a lot of great people who really supported me. And that's what I want to make sure I do in this role.
So if I was someone who was curious about getting involved with your industry, maybe I like beer and I'm a college student, what would you recommend to that person?
Well, I recommend just really learning about the industry, right? So yes, drinking beer is a really fun and great part of the industry. I think looking at it from the outside, people are like, oh, you just must drink beer all day. That's not quite as easy as it sounds. So yes, the consumption part is really fun, but my advice would be, get online, understand the industry, understand the history of the industry, right? I mean, it's really interesting when you think of the impact of prohibition and what happened after prohibition within this industry. We're also one of the most heavily regulated industries in the United States, right? You can't drink alcohol before you're 21. There's a lot of rules and legislation against our industry, and we got to make sure that people really understand how the three-tier system works. So if you're interested and you really dig into the history of the business and you understand the three-tier system, and you're still excited about it, then yes, the beer drinking comes as well. But there's a whole bunch of nuances to this industry that I believe are super exciting.
Mm-hmm. What does your day look like? So obviously you have your dog here.
Always bring my dog when I can. Yeah.
Okay. And so can you just tell me what does a typical day for Chris look like, and maybe narrate it out for me, since we're going to be filming clips of you doing stuff. I'll probably insert that as start my day like this. Take my dog out to go to the bathroom at this point of the day, do this after.
Yeah, so the honest answer is I actually don't have a typical day, which is why I love what I do. There is no specific routine that ultimately I have. We just built a brand new gym downstairs, so that's now. Fortunately, I gotta come with the beer drinking. Unfortunately, health and wellness are still important. So my day now is actually starting off downstairs at our gym, which is just a great opportunity that we have for all of our employees to be able to utilize. But really after that, it could be anything from supplier meetings, meeting with our exec team. It could be going out and trade. It could be traveling. There's a lot of travel in these jobs, so we have lots of national meetings. So any given week, I'm probably on an airplane, or at least every other week, flying to some sort of meeting. And really, for me, the easiest way to answer that is most of my day is spent against our strategic initiatives, right? And so for us, it's about how do we continue to build this kind of beyond beverage portfolio that we have, certainly outside of just beer. We're now in wine and spirits and non-alc in a big way. I spent a lot of time looking at our portfolio and identifying the white space. And then we spent a lot of time in mergers and acquisitions. If we're going to continue to grow, then that's going to be an important piece of what we need to do long term. So I spent a lot of time on that. I spent a lot of time with lawyers. Sometimes that's good, sometimes not so good, right? When you push the envelope, sometimes there's legal action, and we're in a couple of those right now. All positive for our business, but you're a jack of all trades. Certain days I'm working closely with HR. Other days I'm diving deep into finance and where our budgets are and all that. But it all for me revolves around strategy. And really the important thing in this role, and And why it's not the same every day is we're spending a lot of time focusing on people, which is job number one, and brands and growing and bringing growth to the organization is job number two. And I, the reason I love this industry and this job is I never have a day where 8 to 5 or 8 to 8 sometimes is never the same. And I love that. I don't, like I said, I don't like too much continuity and sitting behind a desk. So for me, getting out and interacting and spending time on things allows me to learn. And I'm still learning every day in this job, in this industry. I've been in it over 20 years, but there's always things to learn and get to know. And that's what's great about working with really smart people, because you learn from them a lot.
What do you do outside of work?
Spent a lot of time with family. So, I'm Italian. We have a very close family bonds, very close to my siblings. I have 4 kids, 4 boys actually. So I have a 20-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 16-month-old, and now a 3-month-old. So I would say right now, especially the last year and a half, most of that has been spent trying to spend as much time as I can with the kids. I mean, I just love hanging out with my older boys. The younger boys are super fun and kind of early developmental age. But for me, a lot of it revolves around family. I love to travel. We love to vacation when we can. I play golf, which I love, and probably a big passion of mine. I live on Lake Washington, so I wake surf. And I ocean surf too, but wake surfing is a real big passion of mine. So any chance, for the 5 months I can get out on the lake, on the boat, especially when it gets dark at 10 p.m. at night, you might find me behind the boat wake surfing.
One last question. Do you have any words that you would like identify as, whether it's like dad, entrepreneur, anything like that identify with you?
For me, certainly dad, right? But it's also brother, right? It's son. So for me, it kind of, that's the nucleus of family, right? You can be you're a dad one minute, you're a brother the next. So for me, that really resonates. And ultimately, and I know it's a easy word that's thrown around, but for me, the thing that identifies with me the most is just leadership. And I take that very serious, and I strive to be a better leader every day, every week, every year than I was the day or week or year before. And that way, for me, I'm always kind of growing and getting better. Like, I feel like it's something like culture. It's ever evolving. You don't really get to where you say, oh, I'm a great leader and I'm kind of done, or I'm a good leader. I don't really think you're ever a great leader. I think it's a constant thing you're always trying to do. And you get a lot of feedback from people and individuals around you that let you know when you're doing really well and when you may not be doing really well. So, for me, that's if I were to describe my job in one word, it's leadership.
That's perfect. All right.